Phoebe, so nice to see you. Thank you so much for doing our show. I know this is a pretty tough time you're going through, we're all going through, but how are you feeling right now?
Hi, Jimmy. It's been a while since I've seen you in person. I mean, I think it's just sort of, it just depends on the day or the hour. You know, sometimes you feel okay. You're like, oh, things are like progressing. And other times you just feel so defeated. And I feel like I've definitely been kind of going through that living in New York. And, you know, you kind of see like the protests and like people marching and the silent sit-ins. And it's all very powerful and moving, but it just sort of makes me feel like I know that this keeps flaring up every few years and everyone's sort of like, a lot of people are like, I can't believe it's happening. I think we have to sort of move beyond that reaction because this stuff isn't surprising and it only bubbles up because of years of suppression and oppression and not being heard, and just systematically the system is designed to oppress Black people, oppress those who don't have, you know, the financial means to be able to resist. And I think that, you know, I'm just sort of like, we really truly have to look at just our institutions that we so blindly trust in a lot of ways, whether it's like local government, federal government, or the police. I think we really have to start being more active in our communities and really trying to be like, okay, like I really want to have a part in this instead of just only being like shocked and awed when things really go haywire. You know, people are in a lot of pain.
Yeah, especially in the city. Can you talk to me about, I mean, can we talk pre-George Floyd was scary enough with the pandemic. Did you leave the apartment much?
You know, New York is very resilient and, you know, we like to show up and support each other. But I think there was a mix of some people feeling like, oh, this quarantine is inconvenient and not willing to play ball and realize this is a team sport, you know, which I feel like is a uniquely sort of American attitude to be like, well, this is infringing my rights to like get fertilizer or go to the hair salon. It's like, people are dying. I don't care if I see your roots. Like, you're 55. Yeah, your hair's gray. We get it. We all get it. You know, you're fooling no one. You know what I mean?
We're in the same boat right now.
Yeah.
And then something like this happens on top of an already crazy moment. And I think it's just an interesting time that we're living in, and sad, and a lot of people are just frustrated. And I know I'm trying to change and be better at you know, communicating and talking and, you know, and listening. You know, when I see that video of George Floyd, I can't watch. I go, dude, enough. I cannot watch this awful thing. But I can't even imagine as a Black person how that would feel to watch that over and over again. And just, you know, you're going, I don't know. I mean, and it's, I don't know. How does that affect you when that comes on and you go?
Yeah, I mean, I can't watch it because I feel like every time we watch a Black person being horrifically murdered, and then that becomes who they are. And I think like outside of this moment, outside of the uprising that's happening, what I want on a day-to-day level to happen going forward is to see Black people as not just the trauma they endure, but as multidimensional people who have jobs, who have kids, who have family members, who like to dance, who love to read. And I feel like we get so caught up in like, you know, there's a lot, like the phrase of like trauma porn. And so like you watch that video and then you'll post a, you know, like a quote from James Baldwin as if he's the only Black person who's ever written a book. And I'm like, if I see one more white person quote James Baldwin, like I don't freaking know.
We can quote Alec Baldwin. Not James, dude. It's been done, and you're so right.
Yes, and it just feels so performative in a way. And I'm like, I think on a day-to-day level, we need to have conversations with each other. We need to listen to Black people. We need to amplify, you know, Black female authors who are also writing on this, Black trans authors who are also contributing, writing about police police brutality, and sort of just remembering that we are full people who are happy. And yes, we deal with a lot of adversity in terms of racism, but that's not my entire life. That's not any Black person's entire life, even if you are an activist. And so I think not seeing us as human allows these videos to constantly just stay on loop every few years. And I think that's really harmful. So I really want the takeaway to be like, outside of however long these protests last, is that you see Black people for all that they are.
Yeah. Is that one of the reasons why you started your own production company?
Yeah. I mean, I think with Two Dope Queens and Jessica and I really were just sort of like, I think we were just surprised in a way that people really reacted to it and responded to it so positively, because we were just going, well, we don't see any sort of like comedy shows hosted by Black women and like the alt scene that's really like supporting other, you know, Black performers, other performers of color, other people in the queer community. So we just sort of started because we weren't seeing it. And I think, you know, I wanted to continue that with Tiny Reparations, because it's like you could get to a certain point, and it's great that Jessica and I are here. We have Two Dope Queens and she's doing movies and I'm writing books, but I don't want it to be just us. So when I started Tiny Reparations, I was like, well, my head of development is Puerto Rican. Jose is amazing. I love him. The office manager, Mai, she is Vietnamese. And we really just wanted to have this amazing sort of like diverse sort of like think tank of like how we can develop different projects right now.
I agree. I think it's totally, you know, one thing I was looking at where you can't kind of get away from if you do look at social media is that a lot of people are saying, it's not a Black person's job to tell white people, teach allies how to be allies.
Yes.
And so I was wondering what your take on that is. I mean, I know it's not your job to teach me how to relate better, but how would you kind of lay it out for anyone who's watching?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, whenever you're curious about something, we have the internet. And so if people can sort of go on Yelp to find the best tacos and spend like 2 hours searching for fajitas, you know what I mean? No one's confused about how to do that. But when it's about, you know, social justice and really showing up and being an ally and making things better, I feel like there's this tendency to be like, oh, I don't know what to do. I need help. And it's like, I already have a job. I can't take on another job. I can't do it.
Yeah, at least Google it first. And then come to me. Ask me every single thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's about, you know, in the workplace, like if you hear of a job listing, like make sure you're not just referring it to your white friends, but your Black friends. Make sure that, you know, I see a lot of people on social media, a lot of celebs and a lot of people who are trying to amplify the message, and they may donate. And I'm like, that's fantastic. But if you aren't having conversations about race with your children, that's also part of the problem. And it's not just about this moment, but it's about for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it started. Yeah, for those who haven't started, start now and know that there is no end. This is just part of your life now. And that's the way I'm looking at it too. Like, I have new things I have to do, and I have 2 little girls that I'm thinking about every day. And I want them to have a great, you know, I want them to have a great understanding of where everyone is, and that we're all human, and that we have to help each other. We have to look out, and we have to give back. Constantly.
Yeah.
Always. Do you mind sticking around? I'd like to ask you some more questions when we come back.
Sure, I'd love to.
Thank you, bud. Cool.
On and on and on. I said, and it's on and on and on.